Number, when a human's laughter rocked the classroom. Literally, the transport shuttle descended through the purple skies of Nexus Prime, carrying the first human to ever attend the Galactic Confederation Academy. Dae-ho Kim pressed his face against the window, watching as the massive crystalline structures of the campus came into view. They sparkled like diamonds under the light of 3 distant suns. First human student, he whispered to himself. No pressure. The shuttle touched down with barely a whisper. Dae-ho grabbed his bag and stood up, his movements causing the entire shuttle to rock slightly. The pilot, a floating jellyfish-like creature, made a sound that the translator interpreted as nervous chittering. Sorry, Dae-ho said, trying to move more carefully as he exited. The Academy's landing platform was bustling with activity, though not in any way Dae-ho expected. Students glided, floated, or skittered across the smooth floors. Most moved in, near silence. When Dae-ho's boots hit the platform, they made a solid thunk-thunk sound that caused several nearby students to freeze. A small reptilian creature with 6 eyes turned to stare at him. Its skin flashed from green to orange, which Dae-ho's pocket translator identified as surprise or alarm. He waved awkwardly. The creature quickly slithered away. This is going to be interesting, Dae-ho muttered. He made his way to the registration hall, following the holographic signs that floated in the air. The building's entrance was enormous, designed to accommodate species of all sizes. Dae-ho walked through, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. Several students near the entrance scattered as he approached. The registration desk was staffed by a being that looked like living water contained in a flexible membrane. It spoke in bubbling sounds that his translator converted to standard speech. Name and homeworld? Dae-ho Kim. Earth, the water being rippled in what might have been surprise. Ah, yes. The human. We have been expecting you. Please wait while we process your information. Dae-ho waited, trying not to fidget. The air felt thin here, and the gravity was noticeably lighter than Earth's. He felt like he could jump over a building if he tried. As he waited, he felt a tickle in his nose. Oh no, he thought. Not now. He tried to hold it back, but the sneeze exploded out of him. Achoo! The sound echoed through the registration hall like a thunderclap. Students scattered in all directions. Someone activated what looked like a personal force field. The water being behind the desk sloshed violently, nearly losing its shape. I'm so sorry, Dae-ho said quickly. It's just a sneeze. It's normal for humans. That was normal? The water being asked, its voice trembling. We will note that in your file. For safety purposes. After registration, Dae-ho was assigned to his living quarters and given his class schedule. His first class was tomorrow. Advanced Quantum Mechanics, with Professor Velthar. As he walked through the campus, he noticed how different everything was. The buildings seemed too delicate, like they were made of glass and dreams. The gravity made him feel strong and clumsy at the same time. That evening, he video-called his best friend Hana back on Earth. Her face appeared as a hologram above his communication device. Dae-ho, how's space school? She asked cheerfully. Weird, Hana. Really? Weird. I sneezed today, and everyone acted like I'd set off a bomb. Hana laughed, her voice bright and loud. Dae-ho quickly lowered the volume, worried that even the sound from his communicator might disturb someone. You're going to be fine, Hana said. Just be yourself. That's what I'm afraid of, Dae-ho replied. Myself seems to be too much for this place. 1. The next morning, Dae-ho headed to his first class. The classroom was a circular room, with seats arranged in tiers around a central platform. He found a seat and carefully lowered himself into it. The chair creaked ominously under his weight. A moment later, there was a sharp crack, and the chair collapsed. Dae-ho tumbled to the floor, more embarrassed than hurt. Several students made sounds of alarm. A 6-limbed arthropod creature approached him cautiously. Are you damaged? It asked through its translator. Just my pride, Dae-ho said, getting up. The chair broke. The chair was rated for species up to 45 kilograms, the arthropod said. You exceed this? I'm about 75 kilograms, Daiho admitted. The arthropod's mandibles clicked together rapidly. Fascinating. You are quite dense. I am Quen, by the way. Daiho. Nice to meet you. A replacement chair was brought. This one reinforced with metal supports. Daiho sat down very carefully. Around him, other students were arriving. There was a floating gas cloud named Ixlo, who communicated through musical tones. A telepathic amphibian called Ratha, whose thoughts appeared as text in everyone's translators. Various other beings whose biology Daiho couldn't even begin to understand. Then Professor Velthar entered, and Daiho understood why they called it a crystalline species. The professor looked like a walking sculpture, made of clear, faceted crystal. Light bent and refracted through its body, creating small rainbows on the walls. Welcome to Advanced Quantum Mechanics, Professor Velthar said. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. In this course, we will explore the fundamental nature of reality at the smallest scales. We will discuss impossible things and understand why they are impossible. The professor's crystal eyes swept across the room and stopped on Daiho. Ah, our human student. Welcome. I must inform you that humans have never taken this course before. Your species only recently achieved faster than light travel. This material may be challenging for you. I'll do my best, Professor, Daiho said. See that you do. Now, let us begin with a discussion of exotic matter and the theoretical limits of biological structures. As the professor lectured, Daiho took notes on his datapad. The information was complex but fascinating. Around him, other students absorbed the information in their own ways. Quen's limbs moved in precise patterns as it typed. Ixlo changed colors in rhythmic waves. Ratha simply stared ahead, receiving the information directly into its mind. After class, Quen approached Daiho again. You survived your first lecture, the arthropod said. Many thought you would not understand the material. It wasn't that bad, Daiho said. We number. When a human's laughter rocked the classroom. Literally. The first week at the academy taught Daiho an important lesson. Being human was complicated when nobody else was. It started in the library on his third day. Daiho sat at a study table with Quen and Ixlo, working through quantum mechanics problems. The library was massive and silent. The kind of silence that felt heavy and sacred. Students moved through the aisles like ghosts. Their various methods of locomotion, making barely a whisper. Daiho was deep in concentration when his nose began to tickle. He recognized the feeling immediately. Not again, he thought, desperately. He pinched his nose, trying to stop it. But the sneeze was coming, whether he wanted it to or not. Achoo! The sound exploded through the library like a bomb. 3 floating datapads nearby fell from the air and clattered to the floor. 2 students immediately activated their personal emergency shields, glowing bubbles of energy surrounding them. Ixlo's gaseous form scattered momentarily before reforming. A librarian, a being that looked like a walking tree with multiple eye stalks, glided over quickly. Its branches trembled with what Daiho's translator identified as distress. Young being. Such violent disruptions are not permitted in the library, it said in a rustling voice. Your explosive exhalation has disturbed 17 students and triggered 3 safety protocols. I'm sorry, Daiho whispered. It was just a sneeze. I can't control it. Cannot control explosive exhalations? The librarian's eye stalks waved in confusion. What kind of biology lacks basic respiratory regulation? Quen intervened, mandibles clicking rapidly. Librarian, this is the human. They have involuntary responses to environmental irritants. It is part of their physiology. How unfortunate, the librarian said. Perhaps the human should study in isolation. For the safety of others. Daiho gathered his materials and left, his face burning with embarrassment. Quen followed him out. "Do not feel bad," the arthropod said. "They do not understand. Most species evolved in controlled environments. Earth was different." "Yes, very different," Deho agreed. "Earth doesn't care if you're comfortable or not." The cafeteria incident happened 2 days later. Deho had learned that most species at the academy didn't eat the way humans did. Some absorbed nutrients through their skin, others plugged into charging stations. A few simply sat under special lights for an hour and called it lunch. But humans needed food, so the academy had created a special section for solid matter consumption species. There were only 3 species who ate this way, and Deho was the only one present at lunch that day. He had been given something that resembled a sandwich, though it was made from synthesized proteins and plant matter. Around him, several students stopped their various forms of nutrient absorption to watch. The sound of his chewing seemed loud in the quiet cafeteria. Crunch. Crunch. His jaw moved up and down, grinding the food between his teeth. To him, it was just eating. To everyone else, it apparently looked like violence. A small, furry creature at the next table made a sound like a squeak and hurried away. Ratha, the telepathic amphibian, projected a thought that appeared in Deho's translator. "The human is destroying matter with bone protrusions. Is this normal?" "It's called eating," Deho said, trying not to be frustrated. "This is how humans consume food." But the grinding sounds, Ixlo's musical tones, translated into words. It suggests breaking and tearing. It is unsettling. Deho put down his sandwich. His appetite had vanished anyway. The stair incident was perhaps the most embarrassing. The academy had both elevators and stairs, though most species preferred the elevators. Deho, feeling restless from sitting in classes all day, decided to take the stairs to his 4th-floor classroom. He jogged up the steps, his boots hitting each one with a solid thump. What he didn't know was that the Academy's stairs were designed for species much lighter than humans. They weren't used to this kind of impact. Thump, 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 thump. Deho bounded up 2 steps at a time, enjoying the exercise. Behind him, small cracks appeared in the stair material. He reached the top just as an alarm began to sound. Holographic warning signs appeared in the air. Seismic activity detected. Geological survey team dispatched. "What's going on?" Deho asked a passing student. The student, a blob-like creature, quivered nervously. The building's sensors detected ground vibrations. They thought it might be a quake. "Oh no," Deho said, understanding. "That was me. I was just using the stairs." "You caused seismic readings by walking?" The blob creature rippled with what might have been disbelief. "How heavy are you? How heavy are you?" A maintenance team arrived. 6 different species with scanning equipment. They examined the stairs, then examined Deho, then examined the stairs again. "The human's footfalls exceeded our safety parameters," one of them said. "We will need to reinforce the stairs or restrict human access to elevators only." That evening, Deho called Hana again. This time, he was sitting on the floor of his room because he was afraid his bed might not support him properly. "They want me to only use elevators," he told her. "Because my walking registers as earthquakes." Hana's hologram showed her trying not to laugh. "Deho, that's actually kind of impressive. You're like a superhero there." "I don't feel like a superhero. I feel like I'm too big and too loud and too heavy for this place." "You're just human," Hana said. "They're the ones who need to adjust." "Easy for you to say. You're back on Earth where everyone's like you." "True. But you're doing something amazing. You're showing the galaxy what humans are like. Give it time." After the call ended, there was a knock on Deho's door. He opened it to find another human standing there, a young man with glasses and neat hair. "Hi," the man said. "I'm Minho Lee. I arrived yesterday. Engineering program." I heard there was another human here. I'm Minho Lee. Dae-ho Kim, he said, shaking Minho's hand. The familiar gesture felt good after a week of being careful not to touch anyone. Come in. Welcome to the most confusing place in the galaxy. Minho entered and looked around the sparse room. I broke 3 chairs yesterday, and I accidentally crushed a datapad by holding it normally. I made them think there was an earthquake by jogging upstairs, Dae-ho said. Both humans looked at each other for a moment, then burst into laughter. It was loud and unrestrained, the kind of laughter that comes from shared frustration and absurdity. Outside in the hallway, Dae-ho heard several doors close quickly. We probably just terrified everyone on this floor, Minho said, wiping his eyes. Probably, Dae-ho agreed. But it felt good. Listen, Minho said, becoming more serious. I was thinking we should be more careful. Try to fit in better. Maybe walk softer, talk quieter, that kind of thing. Dae-ho nodded slowly. Yeah, maybe you're right. I've been trying, but it's hard. Everything about us seems to be too much for them. We'll figure it out, Minho said. Humans are good at adapting. It's kind of our thing. After Minho left, Dae-ho lay on his floor bed and stared at the ceiling. The room's artificial gravity was set to 0. 7G. Lighter than Earth's standard, 1G. It made him feel strange, like he was constantly about to float away. Number. When. A human's laughter rocked the classroom. Literally, week 3 arrived, and Dae-ho had become an expert at being quiet. He walked on his toes. He breathed shallowly. He kept his voice to barely a whisper. When he felt a sneeze coming, he would rush outside before it could explode. He was exhausted from the constant effort of being less than himself. Professor Velthar's advanced quantum mechanics class had become his favorite, though. The crystalline professor was strict but fair, and the material was genuinely fascinating. Dae-ho sat in his reinforced chair, surrounded by his usual classmates. Quen clicked away at his datapad on the left. Ixlo floated nearby, colors shifting thoughtfully. Ratha's telepathic presence hummed quietly in everyone's translators. Today, Professor Velthar announced, light refracting through its crystalline body, we will discuss theoretical impossibilities, specifically, the biological limitations that physics imposes on living beings. The professor brought up a holographic display showing various planetary conditions and their effects on possible life forms. Consider, the professor continued, a world with gravity significantly stronger than standard. Say, 1.3 times our norm. The structural requirements for any large organism would be enormous. Bones would need to be incredibly dense, muscles impossibly strong, cardiovascular systems robust, beyond reason. Dae-ho shifted slightly in his seat. Earth's gravity was about 1.4 times the station's current setting. He kept listening. Don. Such a species would require skeletal structures denser than most starship hulls, Professor Velthar said. The professor's tone carried what Dae-ho recognized as humor, the crystalline equivalent of a smile. Imagine a species so structurally reinforced that they would seem like walking tanks to civilized beings. They would collapse under their own weight on any reasonable world. Several students made sounds of amusement. Quen's mandibles clicked in a pattern that indicated laughter. Ixlo cycled through colors that meant humor. Dae-ho felt a small smile tugging at his lips. The professor was describing humans, completely unaware. But wait, Professor Velthar continued, clearly enjoying this theoretical exercise. It gets more absurd. Such a species would also need extreme respiratory capacity to oxygenate all that dense tissue. They would require explosive inhalation and exhalation systems. Imagine the sound, like tiny atmospheric disturbances with every breath. More amused sounds from the class. Dae-ho's smile grew wider. This was too perfect. And their consumption methods. The professor's crystalline form shimmered with what must have been laughter. They would need to break down other organic matter for energy. They would probably have calcium-based grinding implements in their oral cavities. They would physically destroy their food before ingestion. How barbaric. Deho bit his lip, trying not to laugh. His chest was starting to shake. Let us take this absurdity further, Professor Velthar said, clearly on a roll now. Such a species would be prone to constant physical damage from their harsh environment. They would need redundant healing systems, excessive temperature regulation, and probably involuntary defensive responses to environmental threats. Like explosive exhalations? Quen asked, mandibles clicking. Precisely. Random, uncontrollable explosions of air from their respiratory systems. Can you imagine? A species so poorly designed that they cannot even control their own breathing. Professor Velthar's whole body sparkled with amusement. Such a species could never achieve civilization. They would be too busy dealing with their own excessive biology. That did it. The mental image of Professor Velthar, unknowingly describing every human complaint about Deho over the past 3 weeks, was too much. The professor had just called humans impossible, barbaric, and poorly designed while Deho sat right there. The laughter started small, a chuckle trying to escape. Deho pressed his hand to his mouth, trying to hold it in. But the pressure was building. His shoulders shook. His eyes watered. The absurdity was overwhelming. Professor Velthar continued, oblivious. And their emotional responses would likely be equally excessive. They would probably create unnecessary vocalization to express internal states, wasteful and inefficient. The dam broke. Deho's laughter exploded out of him in a full, unrestrained roar. Ha! Ha! The sound filled the classroom like thunder. It was loud and deep and completely human. It came from his chest, his belly, his whole body. 3 weeks of restraint vanished in 8 seconds of pure, joyful laughter. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The floor began to vibrate. Not much, but enough. Deho felt it through his chair. The holographic display flickered and wavered. 3 students in the front row activated their emergency shields, glowing bubbles of energy surrounding them. Ixlo's gaseous form dispersed completely, spreading across half the room before slowly reforming. Quen's legs locked into a defensive position. Ratha's telepathic presence screamed a single word that appeared in everyone's translators. Danger. The light fixtures above began to sway. A harmonic resonance started in Professor Velthar's crystalline structure, creating a high-pitched, ringing sound. Small cracks appeared in the windows. Warning holograms appeared throughout the room. Seismic activity detected. Emergency protocols activated. Automated dampening fields engaged, trying to absorb the vibrations. The emergency lighting kicked on, bathing everything in red, and Deho kept laughing, unable to stop. It wasn't just the professor's lecture anymore. It was everything. 3 weeks of being too much, too loud, too heavy, too human, and now here was a professor explaining in detail why humans were theoretically impossible while a human sat in the classroom. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, but was really only about 8 seconds, Deho got control of himself. The laughter faded to chuckles, then to silence. He wiped tears from his eyes. The classroom was completely still. Every eye, sensor, and perception organ was focused on him. The emergency lights still flashed. The dampening fields still hummed. Professor Velthar stood frozen, its crystalline body still ringing faintly from the resonance. When it spoke, its voice was very quiet. What was that? Deho took a shaky breath. Sorry, Professor. That was laughter. Human laughter. I couldn't help it. That was a humor response? The professor's tone was something between fascination and horror. That amount of force for expressing amusement? It's how we're built, Deho said. He gestured at the still flashing warning displays. And everything you were describing? Those theoretical impossibilities? You were describing humans. All of it. The dense bones, the explosive respiratory system, the calcium grinding implements. That's us. That's Earth. Silence. Then Quen's voice, mandibles clicking slowly. The gravity you mentioned. Professor. 1.3 times standard. Earth's gravity is? About 1.4 times the station standard, Deho confirmed. Everything you said was impossible? That's why I'm like this. Earth made us this way because nothing else could survive there. Professor Velthar's crystalline body stopped ringing. The professor moved closer to Deho, examining him with what seemed like new understanding. You are saying that humans are a death world species. An actual, functioning, death world species. I guess so, Deho said. I mean, we just call it home. The emergency systems began to power down, the dampening fields disengaging. Students slowly came out of their defensive positions. Ixlo had fully reformed, but was staying a careful distance away. I triggered the seismic sensors, didn't I? Deho asked. You registered as a 2.1 magnitude event, Professor Velthar said. Campus security received 47 automated alerts. 3 buildings initiated evacuation protocols. 14I, Tentripanti, 1 plane, and a question. 8C, board, and use. Just from laughing, Deho said quietly. This is why I've been trying so hard to be quiet. You registered as an earthquake, Quen said, all 6 limbs trembling slightly. By expressing amusement. I'm really sorry, Deho said. The lecture was just. You were describing humans as impossible. And we're not impossible. We're just different. And it was funny. And I couldn't help it. Professor Velthar was quiet for a long moment, its crystalline structure refracting light in complex patterns. Finally, it spoke. Class is dismissed. Deho, please remain. We need to discuss this. The other students filed out quickly, most keeping a respectful distance from Deho. Quen paused at the door, mandibles clicking in a pattern Deho had learned meant concern. Will you be okay? The arthropod asked. I think so, Deho said, though he wasn't sure. Thanks for asking. When they were alone, Professor Velthar moved to stand directly in front of Deho. I owe you an apology, the professor said. I made assumptions about theoretical limits, without considering that such species might actually exist. It was intellectually lazy. You didn't know. Deho say, number. When a human's laughter rocked the classroom. Literally. The inquiry board assembled the very next morning. Deho sat in a large conference room facing 12 representatives from different species. They sat, floated, or stood behind a curved desk, all their various sensory organs focused on him. He felt like a specimen under examination. Mr. Kim, began the board chair, a tall being that looked like flowing mercury, shaped into a humanoid form. Yesterday at 14:32 station time, you produced a vocalization that registered on our seismic monitoring systems. This vocalization caused structural vibrations, activated emergency protocols in 3 buildings, and caused minor panic among the student population. Do you understand why we are concerned? Yes, Deho said quietly. I understand. Can you explain what occurred? Asked another board member, a floating collection of geometric shapes. Deho took a breath and explained the lecture, Professor Velthar's theoretical discussion, and how he couldn't control his laughter when he realized the professor was describing humans as impossible. You found humor in being described as a biological impossibility? Asked a plant-like being with rustling leaves. It was ironic, Deho said. The professor was teaching the class, and I was sitting right there, proving that everything he said was possible. But the force of your response, the mercury being said, it caused measurable seismic activity. Is this normal for your species? Laughter is normal. The intensity varies by person and situation. One of the board members, a crystalline being similar to Professor Velthar, but with a darker color, leaned forward. We need to understand the mechanism. How does emotional expression generate such physical force? For the next hour, Deho tried to explain human respiratory systems, diaphragm muscles, and the physics of laughter. The board members asked detailed questions, some curious, others clearly alarmed. A medical team was brought in to scan him, their instruments buzzing and clicking around his body. His lung capacity is enormous, one of the doctors reported, a being with multiple sensory tentacles. His diaphragm muscle is incredibly developed. And his bone density. I've never seen anything like it in a biological organism. How much force can a human laugh generate? The board chair asked. I don't know, Deho admitted. Yesterday wasn't even my hardest laugh. I was actually trying to hold it in. Several board members made sounds of distress at this information. The inquiry stretched into a second day. Engineers examined the classroom, measuring vibration patterns and structural integrity. They found hairline cracks in the floor where Deho's chair had been placed. The resonance from his laughter had created standing waves in the building's crystalline support structure. The building is safe, the lead engineer reported. But we recommend adding dampening systems to any room where humans will be present. During a break, Minho found Deho in a waiting area. I heard what happened, the other human said. Everyone's talking about it. The human who shook a building by laughing. It's not funny, Deho said miserably. Actually, it kind of is, Minho replied. I mean, from a certain perspective. You laughed so hard you registered as an earthquake. That's actually impressive. The board is talking about expelling me, sending me back to Earth. Minho's expression became serious. They can't do that. You didn't do anything wrong. You just existed. That's not a crime. But what if I'm too dangerous? What if humans are too much for this place? Before Minho could answer, Quen appeared, all 6 limbs moving in an agitated pattern. Deho? I have completed my paper, the arthropod said excitedly. Kinetic energy transfer. Through vocalization. A human case study. I documented everything from yesterday's lecture. The board must see this. It proves you are not dangerous, merely different. Thanks, Quen, Deho said, touched by his friend's support. Ixlo wishes to support you as well, Quen added. But Ixlo is still reforming from yesterday. Dispersing completely is very traumatic for gas-based species. On the 3rd day of inquiry, something unexpected happened. A new human arrived at the academy, and she went directly to the board meeting. My name is Professor Ji-Hyun Choi, she announced, her voice confident and clear. I'm a xenobiologist from Earth, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Dae-Ho Kim and all humans. The board members looked surprised. The chair gestured for her to continue. You are treating this student as if he committed an offense, Professor Ji-Hyun said. He did not. He experienced a normal emotional response that his biology expressed in a normal way for his species. The problem is not with the human. The problem is that you don't understand what humans are. She brought up a holographic display of Earth, rotating slowly in the air. This is a Class H world. You call them death worlds. Extreme gravity, violent weather systems, aggressive microbial life, predator species, natural disasters. Earth has all of these. Humans evolved to survive this environment. That means we are built differently than species from more stable worlds. The display changed to show human anatomy, highlighting bones, muscles, organs. Human bone density is extreme because our gravity demands it. Our cardiovascular systems are powerful because our bodies need constant high-pressure circulation. Our respiratory systems are explosive because we need rapid oxygen exchange to fuel our dense tissues. Everything about us is excessive, by your standards, because your standards evolved in gentle conditions. Professor Ji-Hyun walked around the room as she spoke, making eye contact with each board member. Laughter is a survival mechanism. It's stress relief, social bonding, and communication all at once. Humans evolved on a world where stress could kill you, where social groups meant survival. where clear communication prevented death. Our emotions are physical, because everything on Earth is physical. You can't separate our feelings from our bodies. But the force involved, the board chair protested. It triggered emergency systems, because your systems are designed for gentle species, Professor Ji-hyun countered. That's not Daeho's fault. Would you blame a deep-sea species for requiring high-pressure environments? Would you fault a radiation-based life form for emitting energy? Would you punish someone for being what they are? Act. Silence fell over the room. Professor Ji-hyun's words hung in the air like a challenge. Finally, the plant-like board member spoke, its leaves rustling softly. The professor makes a valid point. We cannot penalize natural biological function. Factor. But we must consider safety, another member said. If human laughter can cause structural damage, then reinforce your structures. Professor Ji-hyun said simply. Adapt your environment, instead of demanding that humans deny their nature. That's what true integration means. The board deliberated privately for several hours. Daeho waited outside with Professor Ji-hyun, Minho, and Quen. Ixlo floated nearby, finally fully reformed, but still keeping a careful distance. Thank you for coming, Daeho said to Professor Ji-hyun. How did you even know to come here? Earth government sent me, she explained. When they heard about the incident, they knew you would need support. You're the first human here. Daeho, everything you do sets a precedent. We couldn't let them decide that humans are incompatible with galactic society just because you laughed. What if they still expel me? Then Earth will file a formal protest. But I don't think they will. These are intelligent beings. They'll see reason. Finally, the board called them back in. The Mercury-formed chair stood to deliver the decision. After careful consideration, this board has ruled that Daeho Kim's actions were unintentional cultural expression, not willful disruption. No disciplinary action will be taken. Daeho felt relief wash over him like a wave. However, the chair continued. Certain accommodations must be made. The Academy will retrofit classrooms and common areas with structural dampening systems designed to handle human-level vibrations. Daeho Kim will be required to attend cross-cultural adaptation sessions to learn better emotional regulation techniques. I accept those terms, Daeho said quickly. Furthermore, the chair added, this incident has revealed gaps in our understanding of Deathworld species. We will be establishing new protocols for integrating beings from extreme environments. Professor Choi, we would like to retain you as a consultant for this process. I would be honored, Professor Ji-hyun replied. After the meeting ended, Daeho walked out of the building into the purple sky afternoon. He felt lighter than he had in weeks, and not just because of the reduced gravity. Quen walked beside him, mandibles clicking in a pleased pattern. You are not expelled. This is good. I have become accustomed to your presence. Thanks, Quen. I've gotten used to you too. Your laughter was impressive, the arthropod added. Terrifying, but impressive. I have much respect for Deathworld species now. Daeho smiled. For the first time since arriving at the Academy, he felt like maybe being human wasn't something he needed to apologize for. It was just what he was. And maybe that was enough. I should have known. You are in my class. I should have researched human biology. The professor paused. That sound you made. That laughter. Is it truly uncontrollable? When something's really funny? Fascinating. And terrifying. But mostly fascinating. Professor Velthar's tone shifted. I suspect there will be an inquiry about today's incident. Am I in trouble? That remains to be seen. He thought about home. About Earth with its heavy gravity and loud cities and billions of humans all living their lives without worrying about being too much. Here, he was an anomaly, a walking disaster who couldn't sneeze or laugh or even walk normally without causing problems. But he was here for a reason. Earth had joined the Galactic Confederation, and humans needed to prove they could learn and contribute. Someone had to be first. Someone had to show the galaxy that humans belonged. Guess that someone is me, Deho whispered to the empty room. Tomorrow he would go back to class and try again to be quieter, gentler, less human. But tonight, he let himself feel frustrated and homesick, and tired of being careful. Have quantum mechanics on Earth too. But you only discovered it recently, correct? Then maybe you can help me with homework, Deho said with a smile. Quen's mandibles clicked in a pattern that might have been laughter. Perhaps. You are strange, human, but interesting. Your body is very solid, very dense. How do you not collapse under your own weight? Earth has stronger gravity than here. We evolved to handle it. Remarkable. A death world species in our academy. This will be an interesting semester. As Deho walked back to his quarters, he felt hopeful. Yes, he was different. Yes, he was stronger and louder and heavier than everyone else here. But maybe that was okay. Maybe being human was enough. When a human's laughter rocked the classroom, literally. The weeks following the inquiry brought changes that Deho never expected. The student who had been avoided, feared, and treated like a walking disaster was now the most interesting being on campus. It started small. A student approached him in the cafeteria during lunch. The student was a scaled reptilian with bright yellow eyes that blinked sideways. Is it true? The student asked nervously. That you can create seismic events? With emotional expression? I just laughed, Deho said. I didn't mean to shake anything, but you did shake things. Intentionally? No, accidentally. It's just how humans are. The reptilian scales shifted to a curious orange color. Fascinating. What other abilities do humans possess? Within days, Deho found himself surrounded by curious students asking questions. What was Earth like? How did humans survive such extreme gravity? Was it true that humans could eat almost anything? Could all humans laugh with seismic force? Professor Ji-hyun, who had stayed on as a consultant, suggested that Deho hold informational sessions about human biology and culture. The academy agreed, providing a reinforced lecture hall with newly installed dampening systems. The first session was packed. Students of all species filled the seats, floated in the air, or positioned themselves around the room. Deho stood at the front, more nervous than he had been facing the inquiry board. Hi everyone, he began. I'm Deho, and I'm human. I know the past few weeks have been weird, and I've probably scared a lot of you. So I wanted to explain what humans are actually like. He brought up images of Earth, showing the blue and green world rotating slowly. This is Earth. As you know, it's a Class H world. What that means is that Earth is really, really hard to live on. The gravity is strong. The weather is violent. There are millions of species competing for resources, and many of them want to eat you. He showed images of storms, earthquakes, predators, and diseases. Humans evolved to survive all of this. That's why we're built the way we are. Our bones are dense to handle the gravity. Our muscles are strong to outrun predators, or fight when we can't run. Our immune systems are aggressive, because diseases on Earth will kill you fast. A student raised a tentacle. Is it true that humans lose consciousness if they stand up too quickly? Sometimes, Deho admitted. Our blood pressure has to fight gravity to get blood to our brains. If we stand up suddenly, sometimes gravity wins for a few seconds. Murmurs of amazement rippled through the audience. And the laughter? Asked Ixlo, floating near the front. Explain the laughter mechanism. Again, Deho smiled. Laughter is how humans express joy, amusement, or sometimes just nervousness. It involves rapid contraction of the diaphragm muscle, which forces air through our vocal cords. The sound varies depending on the person and how funny something is, and it can cause structural vibrations. Apparently, yeah. I didn't know that before I came here. On Earth, buildings are built to handle much stronger forces. Earthquakes, storms, heavy traffic. My laughter wouldn't even register there. He demonstrated other human expressions, carefully. Smiling, which several species found alarming because it involved showing teeth. Frowning, which looked like aggression to some. Crying, which he explained but didn't demonstrate because he didn't want anyone to think he was in distress. "Can you show us a small laugh?" Quen asked. "Not a seismic one, just a small one." Deho chuckled softly, and even that made several students flinch. But then, they leaned forward, curious. "It's strange." Ratha's telepathic voice appeared in the translators. "Your emotional expressions are so physical, so external. Most species keep emotions internal. Humans are very external," Deho agreed. "We touch each other to show friendship. We make loud noises to show excitement. We move our faces constantly to communicate. It's just how we work." The sessions became regular events. Deho taught about handshakes, explaining that humans had to grip very, very gently when shaking hands with other species. He taught about high fives, which several brave students tried with him, using padded protective equipment. He explained human humor, though most species found it confusing. Then came the fitness assessments. All students had to complete physical evaluations. And Deho had been dreading it. He knew he was stronger than most species here, but he hadn't realized how much stronger until the assessment began. The first test was vertical jumping. The instructor, a spider-like being with 8 legs, explained the task. "Jump as high as you can. The sensors will measure your height and power output. Most species can achieve approximately 0.3 meters with mechanical assistance. Deho didn't use mechanical assistance, he just jumped, the way he would jump on Earth. In the lighter gravity of the station, he soared upward, nearly 3 meters, before coming back down. The instructor's 8 eyes all widened. "Please repeat the test. The sensors must be malfunctioning." Deho jumped again. Same result. The instructor checked the equipment 3 times. The human achieved 3 meters of vertical displacement, using only biological muscle power. Word spread quickly. Students gathered to watch Deho complete the other assessments. He ran on the treadmill for 30 minutes without showing signs of fatigue. He lifted weights that were marked for mechanical assistance only use. He completed an obstacle course designed for peak athletic ability across all species in half the expected time. "You're not even breathing hard," Minho observed. He had come to watch, along with a growing crowd of spectators. "This is easy," Deho said. "The gravity here is lighter than home. It's like running with weights off." A video recording of Deho's assessment was shared across the Academy's network. Within hours, it had spread to other stations and worlds. "Human performs 100 vertical jumps without fatigue," became a trending topic on the Galactic Communications Network. Professor Velthar approached Deho after class one day, the crystalline professor's structure refracting light in complex patterns. "I have been thinking," the professor said, "about Death World species and what they can teach us. Your people evolved under extreme pressure. You had to be strong, adaptable, resilient. Perhaps there is much that gentler species can learn from you." "Like what?" Deho asked. "Persistence. Humans do not give up easily. Correct? Because on Earth, giving up meant death." "I guess that's true," Deho said. 1. You also work together. Social bonding, you call it. Because alone on Earth, a human would die. Deho nodded. "Humans are social animals. We need each other. These are valuable traits," Professor Velthar said thoughtfully. "Perhaps the galaxy has been too focused on intellectual advancement and not enough on resilience. Your presence here is teaching us something important." That evening, Deho received a message from the Academy administration. The annual Academy Games were approaching, a competition between students of different species in various challenges. For the first time, humans were invited to participate. "They want me to compete?" Deho said to Minho and Professor Ji-hyun during a video call. "All 3 of you," Professor Ji-hyun confirmed. "You, Minho, and they've asked a human medical student named Yuna Song to join the team as well. Who's Yuna? Daeho asked. She arrived last week, Minho said. I met her in the engineering building. Daeho met Yuna the next day. She was focused and serious, with sharp eyes and a confident manner. So you're the famous laughing human, she said when they were introduced. I heard about you before I even left Earth. Sorry about that, Daeho said. Don't be. You made humans famous here. Before you, nobody paid attention to us. Now everyone knows what we're capable of. She smiled. I think we should show them what else humans can do. The three humans began training for the games. The challenges would test problem-solving, endurance, adaptation, and teamwork. Most species brought teams of specialists, each member optimized for different tasks. We're generalists, Yuna explained. Humans can do a little bit of everything. That's our advantage. As they trained, Daeho noticed something. He felt less like he was hiding what he was, and more like he was showing what humans could be. His strength wasn't something to be ashamed of. His emotional expressiveness wasn't a flaw. These were features of his species, shaped by millions of years of surviving Earth. During a training session, Quen approached the human team. I have been observing your practice, the arthropod said. You work together very efficiently. Your communication is clear even without technological assistance. And your persistence is remarkable. You have been training for 4 hours without rest. That's normal for us, Minho said. On Earth, this would be a light workout. Incredible. I wish you success in the games. Many students are curious to see how Death World species compete. That night, Daeho called Hana back on Earth. I saw your jumping video, she said, grinning. You're famous. Everyone here is talking about how humans are amazing. It doesn't feel amazing, Daeho admitted. It just feels normal. That's exactly why it's amazing, Hana said. You're normal. And normal for humans is extraordinary for everyone else. You're showing the galaxy what we are. I'm proud of you, Daeho. After the call, Daeho looked out his window at the purple sky and the distant stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, with its crushing gravity and violent weather and millions of species all competing to survive. That world had made him what he was. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Daeho wasn't trying to be less human. He was ready to show everyone exactly what being human meant.